Hey YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like this video and comment down below for any more video ideas. And also let me know who you guys would think would win in this battle, Ultraman Agul or Ultraman Hikari. Hey YouTube, it is Easy here, bringing you guys another episode of Ultraman based content. Today we'll be going over Ultraman Agul versus Ultraman Hikari. Yeah, folks, the two blue giants, the second giants of their season. This is going to be really interesting. I have the polls up right now. As you guys voted, you guys were pretty split down the middle between who would actually win between these two ultras. In this video today, I'm going to be going over their history, their power sets, and what exactly they did inside their season. And then we're going to see who would actually win in a all no bars fight. So let's get into it today. So today we're going to start with Ultraman Agul. So a little bit of history about Ultraman Agul. He was one of my favorite Ultraman growing up. Inside of Ultraman Gaia, he just comes out of nowhere. Complete badass, and he's just raw. So who is Ultraman Agul? So Ultraman Agul is the second Ultra hero of Ultraman Gaia. Agul is the manifestation of the sea, like Gaia is the manifestation of the earth. So Ultraman Gaia, you know, he cares for humans, he cares for what humans are going through, he cares about the earth as a whole. And Agul just comes in here and says, fuck it. He's like, I don't care about these humans, I only care about protecting the earth. And if these humans get in the way of protecting the earth, then they gotta go. He was just cool. I mean, he was a cool, he wasn't evil, he was like the anti-hero of the season. So Agul bonded with Hiroa Fujimiya. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, my Japanese is terrible. But he bonded with him, and he was like this emo guy. And he had a lot of disagreements in battles with Gaia. And it just added tension throughout the season. But halfway through the season, Agul eventually kind of figures out that he's wrong. And then he gives his powers over to Ultraman Gaia. And that's how Ultraman Gaia gets his version 2, and he also gets his Ultraman Gaia Supreme form. But yeah, we think that Agul is dead at this point, and he still had his version 1 outfit on. And I'm not too much of a fan of this design of Ultraman Agul. It's okay, but I like the version 2 form when he comes back to life. And the version 2 form looks a lot like Ultraman Gaia's version 2 form, with the black crest and the cool designs on the side. Now, Ultraman Agul never got a Supreme form until this year. We really don't have any stats on this Supreme form, but yeah, it looks pretty cool. I like the red. Kind of makes him it kind of makes him into a red giant now, instead of just being an all blue giant. So that's really cool. We don't have much stats on that form, so I won't use it too much in this argument of him versus Hikari, but just wanted to bring up that he does have this new form. So at the end of Ultraman Gaia, Ultraman Agul begins to fight alongside Ultraman Gaia, and eventually they take down the big bad of the season together after losing, and him and Gaia end up protecting the earth together. Now, Ultraman Agul comes back in Ultraman Orb, the Origin Saga, where he comes back to come fight alongside Ultraman Gaia, Ultraman Orb, and I believe Ultraman Dyna and Cosmos as well. So that was really cool to see him come back after so many years. And he also appeared in the Ultraman, what was the name of that? Superior Ultra 8 Brothers as a side character, but he never transformed. So now we're about to get into the stats of Ultraman Agul. So the cool thing about Ultraman Agul and Ultraman Gaia are that they're forces from the earth. Unlike other Ultraman, they're not from space, they're literally creations from the earth. So the color timer on their chest does not correlate to a time limit. There is not a time limit at all. He can actually last on Earth for however long he can, but his blinker will start to blink once he sustains heavy damage. So that's really important moving forward because, as you know, Ultraman Hikari, his is a time limit. He only has 3 minutes before he has to demorph. Another thing is that the little shiny gem on Agul's forehead actually absorbs light energy from the sea. So as he's on Earth, he's constantly collecting this energy and constantly getting energy flowing into him. So that's a really interesting thing about Ultraman Agul, especially going into his stats. So as I said earlier, Ultraman Agul gets his version 2 form midway through the series. And this version 2 form is pretty tough. His arm strafe is at 105,000 tons. So it's actually already looking at Ultraman Hikari stats. All of Ultraman Agul's is a lot higher. The only thing that Ultraman Agul is slow at is his underwater speed, which is pretty interesting since he's the Ultraman of the sea. But his stats are pretty up there. As you know, he also has a Supreme form, but we don't have any stats on it. It was just created this year, so there's not a lot of information on it. But he does have a lot of impressive moves. He has his Photon Crusher, his Liquidator, his Photon Screw. All of those are these little energy collecting beam that he does. The Photon Crusher is similar to Ultraman Gaia's move, where they collect energy at the little gem at the top of their head. And that is concentrated and creates a big old energy beam that is shot out from the head. So that's pretty cool. He also has his Agul Stream, which is the same as his L-shape attack that any other Ultraman will use. But the biggest thing is his Slasher, which is his sword. And it's called the Agul Saber. And this saber is really important. It's going to be the most important thing coming down to Ultraman Agul versus Ultraman Hikari, because they both have little sabers that they use. But this one can also kind of be used as a whip too, which is a little bit different from Ultraman Hikari's. So it's pretty cool. He has a lot of attacks, and he's a very strong Ultraman. His fighting technique is very wrestler style. He will get up on you. He's very aggressive. He's an aggressive Ultraman. And he will fight up close. And then after he gets done pummeling his opponent, he usually finishes them off with some type of finishing move. So Ultraman Agul is a pretty strong opponent. We're about to get into Ultraman Hikari next. So Ultraman Hikari, man, what another legendary Ultraman. So I remember growing up watching Ultraman Nebius, and Ultraman Hikari just comes out of nowhere with his armor, and he's also another badass. We really don't know if he's evil or not. He kind of gives off that anti-hero vibe that he's not evil, but we know that something is up with this armor that he's wearing. So, you know, he comes into the series as Hunter Knight Shirogi until he eventually changes into Ultraman Hikari, and he gets freed from his armor. So Ultraman Hikari is actually a pretty old Ultraman. He's been around for 22,000 years. Ultraman Agul has only been around for 22 years. So that being said, he's pretty old compared to his competitor. And he is from the Land of Light, which is different from Ultraman Agul. He is an alien. And Ultraman Hikari was an explorer. He was a scientist. And he would explore new planets. So he was actually given his color timer a little differently. His color timer was placed on him because of all the traveling that he had done and all the science experiments that he had to go to other planets. So they put one on him, unlike the other Red Ultras who had it on there because they're warriors. So pretty interesting. When I first saw Ultraman Mebius, I thought that there was like this weird race thing going on with the Ultra Warriors. Because if you guys have watched the history of Ultraman, the blue Ultras do not fight, and there's actually none of them in the space garrison. Usually they are patrollers, they're scientists, and they don't fight. And it was weird. I thought that the Reds wouldn't let the Blues fight. But Ultraman Hikari is actually the very first blue Ultraman to join the space garrison as a warrior, which is pretty cool history, pretty cool lore. he kind of started other blues being accepted and being Ultraman as like mainstay Ultraman as well. So long ago, Ultraman Hikari was actually the chief scientist of the Land of Light's Space Science Technology Bureau. So it was really cool. We actually learned more about his history more recently than we did in the past. This actually came out during Ultra Battle Conspiracy, I believe, that we started to learn that he was actually working with Ultraman Traeger, who's another Blue Ultraman as a scientist. So going back to that whole scientist, Blue Ultraman being scientist and everything. So, you know, Ultraman Hikari, he gets into trouble on a planet, and a planet Arb, by Bulgari. And he gets trapped inside of this armor. And this legendary armor traps him, and he turns into Hunter Knight Tsurugi. So he comes back to planet Earth to fight Bulgari, and this is when he is seen wearing the armor, and he goes through his whole story where he has to regain his memories and eventually battle off the armor, and then become Ultraman Hikari again. So once he turns back to Ultraman Hikari, he leaves Earth and he actually joins the Intergalactic Defense Force, one of the first members, which is pretty cool, of the Space Garrison. And then he eventually returns to Earth to help out Ultraman Mebius, and he actually gets a better armor. It's actually it's a Knight Tsurugi armor. It's the exact same armor, but now it's purified and he can use it. He can use it for good now. So with that armor, his stats do go up, but not significantly. So eventually he helps Ultraman Mebius. He eventually he merges with him at the end of the series, which is pretty cool. And yeah, we get to see Ultraman Hikari throughout the series. Going forward, we get to see him as a scientist again. We also get to see him help Ultraman Victory. He gives Ultraman Victory his new power up, where Ultraman Victory turns into a blue Ultraman, which is pretty cool. And yeah, we just see him throughout, and we just see Ultraman Hikari helping out different Ultras and just being a mainstay inside the series. So now we're going to get into the stats of Ultraman Hikari. So like I said before, he is 22,000 years old, so he has a lot of experience. He has a color timer, which means that if he battles on Earth, he only has 3 minutes to battle. He also has the marks, just like Zophie, because he's an honorable Ultraman. People love him because of the expeditions that he has done. So he is very big on the Ultra world. And the Night Brace on his arm is a very special tool, just like Ultraman Mebius. It gives him a lot of powers and is responsible for a lot of his movesets. So yeah, Ultraman Hikari's stats, he's pretty close to Agul, but honestly, Agul is a lot faster and stronger than Ultraman Hikari. If you look at his stats compared to Ultraman Agul's, it's pretty low in a lot of areas, especially flight, jumping speed, and running speed. Actually, he's only faster underwater against Ultraman Agul, and he's also not as strong as him. Ultraman Agul being an aggressive fighter, Ultraman Hikari is a strategic fighter. So he's very smart and he's very perspective when he's inside of battles. So we'll keep that in mind going forward. Ultraman Hikari can also upgrade his gear. So I'm not sure exactly how much stronger he gets, but Ultraman Hikari definitely gets a power-up when he's inside of this form. He can become an extraordinary jumper. All of his stats are boosted up, and all of his powers are boosted up. His punches, his chops, they all become stronger. So Ultraman Hikari himself, he has a lot of different powers. First, he has his sword, and his sword is really important when he's battling. It's not only a sword; it can also turn into a projectile, and it shoots out energy as well. He also has a lot of different blast attacks, just like any normal Ultraman. He has his L-shaped attack, He has an energy reflector, and overall, he's a very strategic fighter. I would say versus Ultraman Agul has a lot more variety of attacks. Ultraman Hikari is much more strategic, and he has a very, I would say, a limited moveset compared to Ultraman Agul. Now, you guys, this is my own personal opinion, so keep this in mind. But being a Ultraman expert, I kind of know who the victor of this battle is going to be. And given the history and the stats of this character, I'm pretty sure you guys see it too. Ultraman Agul would dookie on Ultraman Hikari. Yeah, Ultraman Agul, he's aggressive. He's a lot stronger. We've seen this in his series. He plays dirty. And Ultraman Hikari is a lot kind-hearted. He's really kind-hearted, and he's not that strong. He's kind of a weak Ultraman, but he fights strategically. I think inside of this battle, Ultraman Agul would outlast Ultraman Hikari. Ultraman Hikari has a time limit. Ultraman Agul doesn't, and he can take some damage. So I feel like throughout the battle it'll be pretty even until Ultraman Hikari brings out his armor. Once Ultraman Hikari brings out his armor, I think Agul would start to struggle a little bit, but I don't think he'll be defeated. And I think that Ultraman Hikari will really use up all of his energy, and then boom, Ultraman Agul has the win. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear given the stats, given the variety of moves that Ultraman Agul has compared to Ultraman Hikari, and just the difference between them. Ultraman Agul is a creation of the Earth. He's not some type of space creature who has a certain amount of time that he can be on Earth due to the sun and the gravity. No, he is a product of Earth. He has a pretty unlimited supply of energy. So he can keep on fighting. So yeah, just given that, Ultraman Agul definitely has the win. So the winner is Ultraman Agul. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for signing on. Please subscribe and comment down below on who you think would win inside of this battle. Also, you guys can also share new video ideas. If you guys have any battles you guys want me to cover or any Ultraman history that you guys want me to go over, please let me know. As always, thank you guys so much. Always appreciate the support, and we'll be seeing you guys soon. Peace.